Welcome to CMMS Radio, a podcast, blog site, and general resource for all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, from selection to implementation to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey. We'll bring in experts along the way to help us learn more about CMMS, facilities operations, and much more. If you need help with the CMMS project, send a message at CMMSradio.com using the What's on Your Mind link. Suggest a topic, share your CMMS story, or ask questions. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're joined by Bennett Fitch. He is the Chief Strategy Officer for Noria Corporation to discuss the Noria journey story and a unique LMS tool called LubPM and the Reliable Plant Conference. Bennett serves as a senior technical consultant and is an instructor for Noria's machinery lubrication and oil analysis. He has several credentials and is an expert in machine lubrication and oil analysis. Welcome to the show, Bennett. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you for that introduction. That was a lot of great things to say. I appreciate that.
My pleasure, my pleasure. It's really important that we have experts like yourself on the show. And what I wanted to talk about first is what are some of the specifics in your background that led you to become an expert in this specific industry?
Well, it's definitely a unique one. Lubrication isn't something people typically grow up to aspire to specialize in, and including myself. It wasn't like, oh gosh, yes, but I did grow up in a family that the subject of lubrication and tribology, which is lubrication, friction, and wear, certainly was a topic because both my father and my grandfather definitely in the business. But just thinking from my own perspective, I'm a mechanical engineer. I have that kind of mindset, and I went through several programs that I kept looking for keywords related to lubrication, not really mentioned very much, especially during those typical education settings. But yet, all the while, how can you imagine a machine of any kind, pump, motor, gearbox, the engine in your car, a bearing of any kind, compressor, you name it. How can you imagine these machines running very efficiently without thinking about the lubricant? We take it for granted what it can do. And, one thing I've been told and learned over the last few years, especially, is treating lubricants as an asset. And thinking about it, it's not just some commodity or something that a consumable, but something that if you treat right and you select right and you manage the right way, it can really benefit you greatly long term. And so Noria has we started off with training over the years, 25 years ago, with oil analysis training and thinking about the condition monitoring aspects with oil analysis. But then as years went on, we realized lubrication needs to be a focus ahead of just analyzing the oil and doing things right proactively ahead of the issues. And then Noria's been able to specialize in both machinery lubrication and oil analysis for both consulting and training purposes. And that's kind of where I fit in. I've been with Noria for the last 10 plus years now. But I've also worked in laboratories before that, and I like oil analysis a lot for that reason. But I'm in the plant all the time, different kinds of plants, and helping people build lubrication programs with their software and programs they have, but using the best practices that we teach. And we also have our own approaches in how to manage a lubrication program, a lubrication management system, we call it LMS.
Right. And so Noria has been around, you already said it, for 25 years. And the initial focus of the organization was really around that education to really help people get to that level of understanding for what they could do with the oil and lubrication analysis itself, right? Yeah. And I'm curious now how that has evolved when it comes to now. So we go back 25 years, now we're here today, and I'm curious how that has evolved as it relates to software and CMMS. So where and how do CMMS platforms or providers fit into the Noria story?
Sure, that's a great question. We're pretty familiar with a lot of the different CMMS programs um, that are required for a lot of maintenance activities to be effective at all in any kind of way. And with any kind of daily activities related to lubrication, okay, maybe there are the right prompts there for work orders and things to be accomplished in that way. Or certain programs that handle all levels of condition monitoring, whether it's vibration, ultrasound, thermography, oil analysis. Then we need to understand how those aspects appropriately fit into the CMMS program, not to just manage the daily activities, but just the overall metrics with how we're able to make an impact on reducing downtime and how the results of the oil analysis data, for example, are actually translating to a benefit in the end of the day. Is it allowing us to extend the life of the oil? Is it allowing machines to experience less failure modes? And there's a lot of connections between all that. It gets really kind of convoluted. But looking back at least 10 years, let's say about 10 years ago, it was very common for whenever we would deliver all the best practices in lubrication, all the right procedures, the calculations for doing this and that, how much grease, what type of grease, the right viscosity, the right everything about it, the right steps to follow. It never really had a great place to go in the CMMS program. It didn't fit very well. They made it work. We made it work at times, but sometimes they just like to default to using an Excel document or some kind of hybrid approach where the ones who are actually trying to manage the lubrication aspects, it was tough to use a program that wasn't really meant for lubrication. And there were programs that had the intention of using for lubrication, but even those just had a little bit of an antiquated approach to it. And so that's kind of where we have evolved over the more recent years, is trying to or actually using a program that we developed in house to kind of help solve some of those needs. But it's all been organic because we see what the challenges are that people have, and we just want to build it for our customers' needs.
That and that's important, because my next question was going to be around Lube PM, which is a solution that you've developed to really get there. And what's important, I think, is you've built and developed Lube PM, which is critical because you understand all the other things that led you there. And now you've got something that you can, bring to market and really help these different plants with their reliability. So the question is, Lube PM, it's a lubrication management system. And I want to talk about the importance of lubrication as a catalyst to greater reliability.
Okay. Yeah. Well, reliability is all about, think about the definition of reliability. We're trying to imagine machines, even individual machines, having a longer lifespan, easier to maintain, sustainability, and just overall cost of ownership being down. But then you extrapolate that across multiple machines. And sometimes the decisions we make for a facility as a whole may compromise things that are specific to each machine because it's better for the greater good. So there's a bit of optimized perspectives that have to come with that. And where lubrication comes in, it's one of the activities in maintenance that is quite frequent. You don't just wait until something's screaming at you, a machine fails, and trying to do some repairs and all the other variety of activities. Lubrication's frequent. Sometimes you might have to go up to a machine every single week, every single day, and maybe every single shift to at least lubricate something if it's a needed machine. And some machines have not just one or two or three lube points, but could have dozens of lube points. There are some cases in tire plants and manufacturing where the grease fittings, I can't even count how many there are, just are all over the place. So trying to identify a way to reliably do that, it takes an approach that's kind of dedicated to the needs of lubrication rather than, a more higher overarching solution for a lot of other things. And I think that's where Lube PM kind of fits in a little bit there.
So with Lube PM, and You and I have had this conversation before. It's really there to essentially take a solid, let's say, preventive, predictive, and CMMS kind of
Hmm.
best practices within an organization. And you can go next level and really get closer to that opportunity for continual process improvement. And what I mean by that is we've got our CMMS and we're leveraging it to the hilt. We're doing everything right. And you've got this nice tracking of data within assets, which in this case we're talking about equipment assets, production assets. Now we can go a step further with something like Lube PM and start looking at that lubrication, because all the other things are in place. And now with a proper lubrication management system, you can go next level to get even more efficiency. Is that a fair statement about Lube PM's role in the CMMS world?
But I would, yes. I mean, we know that there is a solid need for a management system for maintenance as a whole, and even the programs that handle asset management more holistically as well. Um, from my perspective, I would hate to see lubrication be a second thought, but in reality, sometimes that's just what the default is. People don't go to lubrication as a priority. After the fact, after experiencing the challenges with machines, they may develop that mindset of treating lubrication first, but it's not the default. So in your case, you're talking about when you have a CMS program, now you're thinking about where can we solve the needs with lubrication. Yeah, Loop PM fits that bill for sure. Um, but sometimes it can be handled initially too, and entirely standalone, but can be connected the right ways as needed. Every kind of facility is a little different with how the different programs talk to each other, but it's not uncommon at all for lubrication to be treated completely separate from all the other maintenance activities. There's a team dedicated to those lubrication tasks, and that's where Loop PM can have a very important role for that type of team. They can manage their activities effectively in a way that's designed exactly for what's the best practices behind lubrication.
That's great. Now, there's another thing I want to switch over to, and this is relative to the other things that Noria does and that Noria is known for. Noria delivers a very, very popular industry conference each year. It's called Reliable Plant. That's coming up, by the way, in July 31st through August 3rd, 2023. And that's going to be in Orlando, Florida. How did that whole thing start?
Oh man, well, about the very beginning of Noria, so 25 years. In fact, this year will be our 25th anniversary year of putting on these conferences. Now, back in the earlier days, Noria was more focused on oil analysis and lubrication. We still are, but it was called something more associated to those topics. But for the last 13, 14, I can't remember how many years, um, 50, it's been called Reliable Plant. But for the last 20 plus years, it's been an industry leading event to focus on gathering information from all different levels of the reliability space, and we also, the maintenance spaces are definitely different concepts, and allowing people to share their message. And it really ties in with Noria's vision statement. I have it written here on the wall here, and it says Noria's vision is to curate knowledge and create solutions for our future leaders to keep every machine and every plant in the world moving reliably. And the key word there is the curation of knowledge. And that's kind of, you think of a museum curator, and they're gathering historical artifacts and find the best to share with the world. That's a little bit what we're doing with knowledge. We have marketing avenues, publishing avenues. We are in classes teaching people, but the things we're teaching are the things we've learned for decades, and we're constantly making it better and better. The conference is just another avenue for that, but for the entire reliability space. So the Reliable Plant Conference is an opportunity to see all of this different subject matter experts talking about what's new and great in the industry. Lots of vendors. We have an exhibit hall with over 100 exhibitors, attendees, 1,200, 1,400 or more people. It's a significant event that happens once a year, and I think a lot of people love going to it because it's a community, and we're all in it.
And that's the critical kind of takeaway when it comes to reliability as a whole. All these different participants, attendees are they're going to learn new things, they're going to share new things, and that knowledge kind of base that's being curated
Yeah.
is kind of growing. You're getting more and more of that, and it goes back to the tribal knowledge. It contributes to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the questions I had about the reliable plant conference is, and I think I already know the answer, but I want to ask you, do CMMS platform providers and other facilities management or asset management type companies, do they exhibit or speak at the conference?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And really anything that is technology driven, IoT, industry 4.0 related topics. Every year, the last 10 years, you see more and more and more of that. There's definitely a lot of CMMS programs out there, or adjacent to related topics, with CMMS, and to support the effectiveness of a CMMS program or the overall maintenance management activities. So that's definitely a core aspect of what you'll see in the exhibit halls and sessions, getting people to get on stage and talk about different approaches. I love those opportunities. And I would say my advice to anyone who's considering going to these kind of conferences, if you've never been to one, yeah, you want to experience it, but think about the why behind it. Why are you going? You're hoping to learn a lot, but you're hoping to also bring back a lot of ideas and solutions to your plant, to your team. And many people may have that ability to influence the team the right way, because you maybe have that job in the right role, and people see you there. But oftentimes it's hard to convey a lot of those messages and get buy-in. So if you're trying to really make a difference, come with a team, come with more people. But whether it's at least just one more person, 3 people, 5 people. And I'm not talking about just this conference. I'm talking about any conference, any training. The impact is so much greater. It's multiplicative. You see the ability to actually change things in the plants really take off.
I agree with that, because if you're just one person,
yeah.
You might miss some things, and you get these dual viewpoints. It's 2 people from the company or more, and it just kind of lends some almost like credibility, where when you go back and you share these learnings, it's not just coming from one voice, it's 2 voices or more, and it can create that kind of necessary interest for the organization to adopt some of these best practices that these individuals learn at the conference. And there's going to be myriad opportunities for that. I've been to many different conferences, and that's a great approach. It's really great advice that you shared there. Is there anything big planned or something special to look forward at this particular conference this year?
Well, it's 25th, so we're going big. I mean, there's the typical stuff, like we have a cool casino night that everybody loves. I mean, it's in Orlando, Florida, so people bring family, and there's all kinds of things right down the street from Disney. But we have a lot of really cool keynotes, and I'm trying to decide how much I can share now. That's not too early to share, but we will have some really cool displays of some special high-end robotics that'll be there and put on a show. We'll have some people that are not only subject matter experts, but founders of really core topics in the maintenance space, and you'll be surprised to learn the role they had in really bringing our industry to where we're at today. So we have a lot of people that are bringing new ideas, younger people that have a lot of great solutions that weren't around, but also telling you about what's the history behind this. Let's hear from those who've been here a while and learn from them, and they were huge and instrumental in getting us to where we're at today.
That's good stuff, because you if you're up and coming, you're maybe a millennial or a younger Gen Xer or someone that's new to this industry and in reliability, those individuals are going to share with you, where were we?
Mm-hmm.
What's that journey to where we are now? And there's going to be lots of different insights from each of these individuals. So I think that's a great environment, and that's what it's really all about, is getting those learnings, the new and innovative things. So that leads me to another question, and this is a question I came up with today. Why is innovation, even if a current program is working, a reliability program, a maintenance program, why is innovation critical for maintenance and reliability teams?
Yeah.
Meaning, why is it important that if what they're doing now is working, that they still continue to innovate?
Well, I say this to even internally at Noria, or anytime we talk about change in general, change management's always a big topic, and dealing with people and cultures and just the way we have habits. But the way anyone, not just, talking about your own role or my role, is the way we may be successful now, the way we're successful 10 years ago, 20 years ago, is not going to be the same way we're successful 5 years from now and 10 years from now. Technology may change, ideas may change. We have new methodologies. Um, if you don't, if you're not going forward, you're not moving forward, then you're falling behind. It's one way or the other. So if you think you can coast, it's not going to last very long. And there's a lot of people who are going to be a little bit stuck in a certain approach and doing things a certain way for too long. But at the same time, there's a lot of fresh ideas. And so if you're willing to combine that, let people blend thought processes, learn from thought leaders, and why not even use a little bit of technology to your advantage? You like having a new phone that you just bought? Yeah, it's fun to mess with the new technology. Or someone buys a new vibration tool. Okay, it gets you into it. It gets you excited about a new technology or a software program. That's one thing people always say about Loop PM is, man, it feels like it's such a modern tool because it's just easy to use, and the navigation between this and that is just modern, and so people get excited about it. So if you're trying to innovate, take those things to your advantage when things are exciting.
I agree. So what is on the horizon for Noria, Lube PM, or your publications?
Always changing. Our publications have definitely evolved a lot. This year, we're leveraging more of a digital platform that allows us to share content, not just with written articles. We've been doing that forever, 25 years, but with videos and interactive infographics, and building a community so that you can see where people need to learn, how people can learn, just different approaches there, and making it accessible. Conference, well, every year is a new one for us, usually in a different city and new people there. So we're just a curator. So we let the vendors and the speakers and the interactions with the networking events, that's the innovation, and in our own space, come back to our core competencies. Noria is all about lubrication and oil analysis, and you can't ignore the blocking and tackling of lubrication activities, going up to machining and greasing or lubricating something, getting oil in your hands. That's a messy environment. But you can make things better with the right technology, the right tools. And you've maybe heard of concepts like the Industry 5.0. What does that mean? Well, that's really just leveraging what humans are best at and known for, and what technology is best at and known for, and getting more effective at blending those two in the right way. And why not make that part of lubrication as well? And that's where we're going.
I love that because you and I have talked about this before. I've heard you talk about it on, you guys had a recent podcast that came out, an inaugural podcast. We'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, it's important that we all realize that even with AI and the other technologies and further advancement in automation, those are all great things, but the human element can't go away, because there's a certain aspect to that where, like you say, with Industry 5.0, where that's blended, now you really get moving. You get this again, I say next level, but that's what it is. It's another pathway to further improve what you're doing on a more constant and consistent basis. So the podcast, could you do a little shout out about the new podcast?
Sure. Well, for anyone who knows Wes Cash, he's our VP of Services at Noria. He's the host of a brand new podcast called Gear Talks. And this is a great podcast in the maintenance and reliability space that really focuses on the people. So what is it that person that's being a guest speaker on the podcast, what is their history? What have they learned over the years, and maybe through a transition of multiple careers? But what's the future look like? And hearing from their experience and what messages they can share. And Wes is an excellent host, and we already have several recorded, and I just think it's phenomenal. So check it out. I don't have the URL to share anything right now, but maybe we'll add it here somehow, and you come check it out.
Yeah.
I'll go to Noria.com or machinerylubrication.com to learn more. I think it's also podcast.nori.com if I'm not mistaken.
I'll look up some of that info and put it up on this video version, and then maybe I can put some info on the website as well. So speaking of that, I want to ask you, how do people get in touch with you to learn more about Noria and to start their own conversation?
Well, my home address is LinkedIn's great. You can reach me by email as well. bfitch, BFITCH at Noria, NORIA.com. That's I'll get back to you as soon as I can with that approach, or find me on LinkedIn, Bennett Fitch. And you can interact. You can look at my posts or comment on it, and we can chat on there as well. Nori.com. Go there, and you'll see everything that Noria is about. I only touched a little bit on what we do, training and consulting. Check out our publications, machinerylubrication.com, Reliable Plant. That has a magazine as well. But the Reliable Plant is the name of our conference as well. So you can find the conference information there, or it's conference.reliableplant.com. That's where the conference site is located. So if you come to conference, you'll find me. I know you will. I'm somewhere around there. So looking forward to seeing everyone who's listening here to coming to conference and talking then.
Yeah, and I definitely encourage anyone that can to go. Make sure if you do, you bring a colleague, at least one colleague. That way you get more substantial learning to bring back to your organization to incorporate these best practices and new innovations that you're going to learn about. Again, the Reliable Plant Conference is July 31st through August 3rd, 2023. That is in Orlando, Florida. Bennett, thank you for the time today. It's a pleasure to have you, and I look forward to doing this again sometime. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Greg.
Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question, and follow us on your favorite podcasting platform. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project, and keep listening to CMMS Radio. Do you have a CMMS story? We'd love to hear it. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.